So TNA Impact took place in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was a special themed episode. Hardcore Justice. And the show starts with a Bound for Glory series ladder match. Austin Aries versus Jeff Hardy versus AJ Styles versus Kazarian. And the winner receives 20 points. Great match. The match ends with both Hardy and Kazarian exchanging blows on the top of one of the ladders as they go for the clipboard. Aries comes off the top rope with a drop kick that knocks Hardy and Kazarian off the ladder, which falls to the mat. Aries sets the ladder back up and climbs toward the top. Then Robert Roode and Christopher Daniels come to the ring. As Aries watches them, AJ Styles springboards from the top of the rope onto the ladder and starts exchanging with Aries. Then Hardy pushes the ladder over. Styles falls onto the top rope while Aries crashes into the other ladder, which is propped up in the ring corner. And then Kazarian gives a couple of blows to Hardy and whips him from the corner. Hardy reverses the whip and sends Kazarian into the propped up ladder. Kazarian bounces off the ladder and Hardy catches him with the twist of fate. Hardy positions the other ladder upright and starts climbing toward the clipboard. Then Roode comes into the ring and grabs Hardy's leg, pulling him back down. As Roode holds Hardy's leg, Hardy decks Roode with a mule kick. Hardy goes back up the ladder, but Kazarian comes up the other side of the ladder and throws Daniels' signature drink in Hardy's face. He slugs Hardy, knocking him off the ladder. Kazarian continues upward and grabs the clipboard with the sheet of paper that says 20. The winner of the match, Kazarian. He gets 20 points and has a total of 22 points. I wish that the match didn't end this way. And that is an issue that TNA needs to fix. Some of these finishes that they've been having lately. However, the match was great. And it establishes the growing effect that the Roode, Daniels, Kazarian alliance is having on the Bound for Glory series. So then we see the main event Mafia walking down the hallway, and Quentin Jackson is dressed up. Even wearing a jacket. It's a camo jacket, but it's a jacket. Kurt Angle is absent for the obvious reason. So then we see Chris Sabin walking through a room with a banquet set up. He stops in the hallway and says that one of his favorite wrestling memories was watching Bully Ray and Devon put a wrestler through a flaming table covered with thumbtacks. He says that he doesn't take Bully Ray lightly, and Bully Ray shouldn't do that as well because he has pinned Bully Ray twice now. Sabin says that he is going for a third win and that he will remain champion. So then we see Dixie Carter in the ring with the main event Mafia. And Dixie announces that Kurt Angle has entered rehab and that the company, his main event Mafia members, and the fans are supporting him and hope that he returns soon. And it was refreshing to see TNA do this instead of coming up with a kayfabe reason to explain Angle's absence. I mean, something as serious as drinking and driving doesn't need to be brushed off with fictional ass covering. So I give them credit by handling it like that. Then Aces and Eights comes to the ring, minus Bully Ray. Mr. Anderson gets on the mic and says that the main event Mafia have until next week to to find a replacement for Angle. He says that his crew has been thinking about how they would brag if they ended the wrestling career of Quentin Jackson before it started. The careers of Samoa Joe and Sting. And the career of Magnus, the man who would be the future of TNA. Magnus gets on the mic and says that the immediate future that Anderson has is getting punched out by him. And he reminds Anderson that the fans were saying that he sucks. Magnus says that it will be difficult to find a new partner for the match, but if they can't find someone backstage, maybe someone from the crowd could be their partner. And then he basically says that one of the main members of Aces and Eights will be eliminated. Anderson counters by saying that a new chapter starts with Bully Ray winning the world title again and Aces and Eights getting rid of a main event Mafia member. Then he says he wants to do a head count. So Anderson counts the members of Aces and Eights, and then he counts the members of Main Event Mafia. He hits Magnus, and a brawl breaks out. Aces and Eights gets the advantage and leaves the Main Event Mafia members lying on the mat. And then they put their hands up. It was a solid segment that did what it intended to do, and that was to not only hype up the match for next week, but to put a singular focus on which wrestler will no longer be in TNA if he is pinned or made to submit. So then we see Tito Ortiz entering the building, still not knowing why he's there, but he is going to do something because he said so last week. Then we see ODB, Gail Kim, and Mickie James in their separate walks as they get ready for the women's match. Now, originally this match was going to be a Tornado tag team match, which would have included Velvet Sky, but she had a medical emergency. So then we have the women's match. Mickie James versus Gail Kim versus ODB. And the fact that we see Mickie and Gail already in the ring coming off the commercial break already telegraphs who's going to win the match. So ODB gets her entrance and shoulder blocks Mickie on her way to the ring as the match begins. Solid match. The match ends with Gail locking ODB in a figure four around the ring post. Mickie decides to help Gail by pulling ODB's arms back. Gail sees this and breaks the figure four hold. Then she shoves Mickie down on the mirroring apron, and they both get back in the ring. As Gail and Mickie are arguing with each other, ODB takes a swig from her flask. She spits her liquor in Mickey's face as Gail ducks. Gail tries to kick ODB, but ODB grabs her leg and delivers a clothesline. ODB kicks Mickie and picks her up in a fireman's carry position as Gail grabs the pseudo kendo stick. Gail hits ODB in the midsection and ODB drops Mickie. Gail swings at ODB again with the pseudo kendo stick, but ODB ducks. She kicks Gail in the midsection, and as Gail falls to one knee, ODB grabs the chair that is still wedged in the ring corner from earlier. She lays the chair down on the mat, picks Gail up, and delivers the BAM, which is fireman's carry cutter, onto the chair. ODB gets the 3. The winner of the match, ODB. Now, it was obvious that during the match, both Gail and Mickie were supposed to retrieve weapons from under the ring, but those weapons were not left for them to use. Thus, there was only a chair and a pseudo kendo stick used for this match. Taryn Terrell update. She's pregnant. Likely we are not going to see her for at least the next 12 months, if at all. Now things are still set up for ODB to get the next title shot. Then Velvet Sky with the perfectly laid out storyline centered on her return from her knee injury should get the shot against Mickie James at Bound for Glory. Unless Gail Kim is thrown in to make it a three-way. But knowing TNA, they will probably take the convenient route and make it a four-way match for the Women's Championship at Bound for Glory so that everyone works. Regardless of how the women's division is being presented currently, being able to count the number of active female wrestlers in TNA on one hand is embarrassing. So then we see the Main Event Mafia backstage, and Sting is upset because they are vulnerable without Kurt Angle and need someone to take his place. Sting says that the other members may not like him, but he is going to talk to Austin Aries because they need him. So then we see Sting sitting down with Austin Aries, and Sting says that the Main Event Mafia hates Aces and Eights and wants to get rid of them. He says that he knows that Aries hates Aces and Eights as well and asks him to join Main Event Mafia. Aries says that it's quite an offer because he considers himself to be the main event every time he's in the ring. And Sting says that they don't have to be friends, but they can work together because they have a common enemy. And he asks Aries once again to join them for the match next week. And Aries just looks at him and smiles. So then we see Robert Roode backstage, and Roode is asked if his plan is working. He says that it was all about the timing, and when he changed the way he did things, he changed the landscape of the Bound for Glory series. He says that he formed an alliance with Christopher Downs and Kazarian, and that Kazarian winning 20 points in the ladder match has put him back into contention. And then Roode states that if he wins the tables match later tonight, he will be in second place. He says that because it pays to be Roode, it's going to happen. So then we see the Main Event Mafia again backstage, and Quentin Jackson asks Magnus how he feels about it. Magnus says that he doesn't know because he doesn't know the guy. And Samoa Joe says that he knows him, but he may be their only choice. Magnus says that they have to wait and see what happened with Sting and Aries. So obviously they were talking about someone else. Sting returns and they want to know what Aries said. Sting says that Aries turned them down and wants to know if anyone has an answer. Jackson gleefully stands, saying that he has one, and it's their only option, but he has to say it in the ring now. He leaves, and Sting tells Joe to go with him. Magnus tells Sting to sit down so that he can tell him about it. So you're Quentin Jackson is about to carry a segment. For this next segment, I'm just going to say that Bully Ray is on the phone. Bully is on the phone. So then we see Quentin Jackson and Samoa Joe come to the ring. And yes, Jackson actually has the mic in his hand. And he starts it by saying, "What's up, y'all? What's up?" So here's what is supposed to be a dire situation being discussed, and Jackson thinks that he's at a family barbecue. Jackson says that he needs the fans' support because it is no secret that he's new here. No. He says that when he first came to TNA, MMA fans called him a sellout, accompanied by some exaggerated hand gesturing. Jackson says that he didn't lose sleep over it, but it was sad that his fans don't know him. He says that is why he wrestled in high school and loves to slam people. Jackson says that he loves TNA. Insert easy joke, but I won't. He says that being in the Main Event Mafia makes him feel like he belongs to a family. And he says, with great overemphasis, that he didn't come to TNA to get his ass kicked by punks on a moped. Or maybe he meant punks on mopeds. Jackson says that he has to ask one of his old training partners to help him, even though they are going to meet in the cage. And he says, Tito Ortiz, come over here! Or something like that. And Tito Ortiz comes to the ring. To shorten this, because he took forever to get to the point, Jackson asks Ortiz to join the Main Event Mafia. Ortiz takes the let me get this straight route, asking if he is being asked to join the Main Event Mafia. And Jackson says that he and Ortiz can take over wrestling just like they took over MMA. Now that I can believe, because if Spike TV says that they can take over TNA, and that is exactly what will happen. And then Ortiz basically rambles about coming to TNA to make headlines and kicking many a butts, or something like that. And thankfully, Bully Ray comes out. And of course, Bully Ray has to plug their fight. But he also says that if he wasn't in his rematch with Chris Sabin, he would beat the asses of both Jackson and Ortiz. Bully Ray says that he has Jackson's number and Ortiz is going to be his bitch. And then Ortiz has to be held back by Jackson and Joe as Bully Ray leaves, and this segment finally ends. Finally. Although Mr. Anderson comes out and greets Bully Ray as he heads to the ring for the tables match. Now this segment is indicative of what will likely be happening regularly on Impact. MMA fighters carrying segments to promote their fights. It won't matter how much they suck on the mic, as both Jackson and Ortiz did. It won't matter how much they look like they don't want to be there, as both Jackson and Ortiz did. TNA is not in control. Don't blame them for this. So then we had the Bound for Glory series tables match. Robert Roode versus Samoa Joe versus Magnus versus Mr. Anderson, with the winner receiving 20 points. Good match. The match ends with Mr. Anderson whipping Joe into the ropes, but Joe ducks Anderson's clothesline and delivers a suicide dive to Roode. Magnus kicks Anderson and whips him off the ropes. Anderson ducks the clothesline, comes off the ropes and tries a flying press, but Magnus catches him and delivers a driver. Magnus takes the table from the ring corner and positions it upright. He goes toward Anderson, but Anderson catches him with the mic check. As Anderson attempts to lift Magnus from the mat, Joe turns Anderson around and chops him. And then Joe picks Anderson up and places him on the top turnbuckle, and then he softens Anderson up with another chop and lifts him off the turnbuckle for an attempt of the muscle buster through the table. However, Roode moves the table out of the way before Joe executes the maneuver. Roode throws Joe out of the ring and sets up the table in the middle of the ring. He kicks Magnus in the midsection and slams an elbow on the back of the neck. Rude lays Magnus on the table and punches him. Then Rude goes to the top rope, but Joe pulls Rude's leg from under him. And then Joe delivers a barrage of punches and chops to Rude. But then Kazarian appears at ringside and grabs Joe's leg, but Joe kicks him away. Joe goes after Kazarian. Meanwhile, Magnus attempts a superplex on Rude. But Christopher Daniels appears and throws that signature drink in Magnus's face. Magnus is stunned enough for Rude to powerbomb him through the table for the win. The winner of the match, Robert Roode. He gets 20 points for a total of 27 points. If they are going to win dirty, could we see them win with harder methods than throwing an alcoholic drink in someone's face? Regardless, this new alliance has seriously changed the direction of the Bound for Glory series. So then we see Sting walking backstage, and he is asked how he feels about Tito Ortiz. He wonders if Ortiz can be beneficial to the Main Event Mafia. And then, of course, he plugs the Quentin Jackson-Tito Ortiz fight because that is Spike TV's order. Sting thinks that Ortiz will join the Main Event Mafia, but he is still not sure. So then we see Bully Ray and Mr. Anderson backstage. Anderson asks Bully Ray if he can do better than Anderson losing the tables match. Bully Ray says that he can actually win his match. And then Anderson points out that Sabin beat him for the title. Then Bully Ray says that Sabin beat him with a hammer that Anderson was responsible for involving in the match. And then Anderson says that Bully Ray told him to bring the hammer into the match. Bully Ray says that all he has been hearing is Sabin beating him twice and whether he can beat Sabin in the cage. Anderson asks Bully Ray if he can beat Sabin. Bully Ray says that he doesn't know, but he wants to know if he has help from his club. And then Anderson says that they are trying to help Bully Ray and that they are not his enemy. And then Bully Ray says that Anderson may not be an enemy, but he hasn't been an ally. And then Bully Ray leaves. So a badass who has been talking all this shit about what he is going to do to get his belt back is now being shown having doubts as to whether he can win his belt back. Negative. So then we have the main event, World Heavyweight Championship in a steel cage. Chris Sabin defending against Bully Ray. Good match. And I still hate the holes in the cage. When you watch a cage match, you should be seeing the point of view of the damn cage. The match ends with Sabin attempting a Hurricane Rana on Bully Ray from the corner, which gets botched, resulting in Bully Ray landing awkwardly on his shoulder. Sabin picks Bully Ray up for the Hail Sabin, but Bully Ray counters with a suplex. And then Bully Ray tells the referee to open the cage door. And he tries to escape, but Sabin pulls him back. Sabin crawls between Bully Ray's legs and tries to go through the cage door. Bully Ray grabs Sabin's leg and pulls him back in the ring. Bully Ray lifts Sabin up onto his shoulder and spins him around. The referee gets in the way and is knocked down. Sabin loosens himself from Bully Ray's grasp, but Bully Ray hits him with an elbow to the head. Then Bully Ray charges Sabin, but Sabin ducks, and Bully Ray ends up squashing the referee against the side of the cage. Sabin delivers an enziguri to Bully Ray and drop kicks him, which sends Bully Ray headfirst into the side of the cage. Sabin goes to the top rope and executes a missile dropkick on Bully Ray, and then Sabin pins Bully Ray for 6 seconds. But the referee is still down. Sabin tries to go through the open cage door, but Mr. Anderson appears and slams the door, knocking Sabin to the mat. Anderson holds the cage door shut and prevents Sabin from escaping. Quentin Jackson and Tito Ortiz come running down the ramp. Jackson grabs Anderson and quote-unquote throws Anderson off the ramp. Ortiz takes out the hammer and hits Jackson from behind. Then Bully Ray sends Sabin headfirst into the cage and then executes the Bully Bomb. Bully Ray gets the pin, the winner of the match, Bully Ray. He regains the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Ortiz comes into the cage with an awkward looking fist into the air. And he and Bully Ray hug and celebrate. Taz comes into the ring with the belt and hands it to Bully Ray. Quentin Jackson is laid out. Taz and Tito Ortiz help Bully Ray celebrate. Mr. Anderson doesn't get to help celebrate. Show ends. Sabin's title reign just wasn't working. Yes, TNA rewarded him for returning from 2 torn ACLs and returning from an inactive period of 2 years by putting the belt on him. But nothing could be built from that. Tito Ortiz joining Aces and Eights should not have been surprising. In order to promote their Bellator fight, Ortiz and Jackson would need to be on opposite sides anyway. Bully Ray is champion again, but excluding Mr. Anderson, the other members of the group are just there breathing air. Does TNA make the group stronger, thus making Bully Ray stronger, particularly if he remains champion after Bound for Glory? Or is Bully Ray still being set up for his big fall at Bound for Glory? If he is, who brings him down? I'm Tazmar 2002, and that was my TNA Impact analysis for August 15th, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below. Click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I would really appreciate it. If you're listening to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, please leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions about TNA or wrestling in general that you would like for me to answer, you can contact me on Twitter, Tazmark2002, that's TAZMARK2002, and if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email, Tazmark2002@gmail.com. It was a good show, notwithstanding questionable decision making and the Quentin Jackson, Tito Ortiz crap ass promo segment. But it was a good show. Hogan's daughter has been fired by TNA. Hogan's daughter never should have been fired by TNA because she never should have been hired by TNA. She pulled a check for a little over a year for doing nothing. Recent talent releases occurred, yet Hogan's daughter kept her job. Apparently, TNA finally realized that the money going to her needed to be freed up, considering their recent budget restructuring. And I previously said in a recent commentary that it would take balls to get rid of her because of Hogan. And those balls finally showed up. Interestingly enough, Hogan reportedly was part of the discussion to release Hogan's daughter. And he, quote, appeared to agree, unquote. Does Hogan agreeing to this mean that TNA has to agree to something else? I'm Tazmart 2002, gone.